Pete, I don't know if you're willing to go into specifics, but you've gone to the finals with a team in 2002. You won the Grail in 2006. What makes these players so unique in that training room based on what goes on and what guys play through, the preparations from a medical standpoint to get guys through to play in those playoff series in what is the Stanley Cup playoff grind?
You know, that's an excellent question, because I personally, I'm obviously biased towards ice hockey, but there is no question that 16 wins to win a Stanley Cup is the toughest championship in team sports, regardless of any sport. I think there might be one team event that's tougher, and that's the Tour de France, and that obviously is probably tougher. But the demands that these guys go through for 16 games after all the travel, I think, Wally, just correct me if I'm wrong, but we fly about 75,000 miles a year. Most of that is
a lot more this year because of Europe as well.
And most of that travel, although it's nice, you know, playing and stuff, it's between 11 and 2 o'clock in the morning. That's why actually I respect what the equipment guys go through too, because they it's an unbelievable workload that they have to put in day in and day out. But you know, if you don't have character people, you know, you might be able to win maybe a gold, and no disrespect for 1980 and the U.S. Olympic team, because that's still a stellar event in ice hockey, but it was one day. You know, one day they were the best. 2 days, maybe the Russians would have beat them. Out of a series of 7, there's no questions the Russians probably would have won that series. But the point being is that these guys have to prove themselves 4 games in a series, and 7 of them. And, you know, I'll just tell you one quick story which occurred on that Stanley Cup. 7th game of the Stanley Cup final. This is the 4th, you know, series. It's our 2nd, 7th game. I have a guy that blocks a shot from a guy named Chris Pronger. I don't know if you know him, if you follow hockey. That guy's, you know, a little bit bigger than most people. He blocks a shot, puts his hands up in front of his face to block the shot, which I thought, man, that might be bad coaching technique. You know, you're supposed to do that with your shin pads. Anyways, he blocks it with his forearms. Pretty sure the mechanism is worth a fracture for sure. He skates up to me on the board. This is game 7, first period. He says, Pete, I'm pretty sure I broke my wrist. Well, you know, people always over-exaggerate their injuries for the most part. I grab his arm, his wrist, and I, you know, sublux the bones back into place, or move the bones back into place. I'm saying, yep, I'm pretty sure you broke the, you know, I'm not a smart man, and I don't have x-ray vision, but when a bone's that placed out, you can pretty well tell. He says, yep, that's what I thought, but give me another shift. I want to see if I can play. This with a broken forearm. Anyways, sure enough, he couldn't. He goes back into our training room, and he gets adjusted, and he gets proper bracing and stuff. That comes back. Point being is he plays another 60 minutes or the rest of the game, we won the Stanley Cup. But that's the type of attitude that you need in order to win a Stanley Cup. Because I'll tell you something, and I'm not advocating, you know, where there's risk, but I'm just telling you, those are the stories. I remember talking to Paul Coffey one time when the Islanders had their legacy, and and the Oilers were just developing their toughness and playing the sport. And he walked by the Islanders dressing room after they had won the Stanley Cup, and he looked into the training room, and just about everybody had an ice bag on. You know, it's a contact sport, and but I'm just telling you, that's what you need, I believe, in order to win a Stanley Cup, is that type of team toughness, because it's unblending. It's just every day.